The English Premier League has been described by most as the best football league in the world. Like any other league, it boasts some of the greatest players in football history to ever play, but that's not all. The league has had its fair share of players that cause fans to cover their faces, cringe in their seats, and let out an exasperated sigh every now and then. In today's video, we take a look at 10 of the worst EPL players of all time. Number 1. Marco Buggers, West Ham. Marco Buggers only made 4 appearances for West Ham, and that was all as a substitute. He never started a game. West Ham United manager Harry Redknapp never saw him before he moved to West Ham from Sparta Rotterdam for £1 million. This unfortunate transfer happened since West Ham were willing to play Russian roulette to obtain a prolific striker in their ranks. Apart from the urban myth of Buggers living on a caravan site, one other thing he's well known for is his horrific strike on Gary Neville. In a game against Manchester United, Buggers came on as a substitute and was nearly sent off for a violent tackle on Gary Neville. A foul that didn't just scream red, but seemed adamant in wanting to deliver a sentence to a crime. Neville was able to finish the match though, and the press as usual had a field day by mentioning that Buggers was brought in on a conspiracy to injure a Manchester United player. In the end, Buggers was suspended for 4 matches. During his first few months at West Ham, Buggers had been suffering from a knee problem that worsened and required emergency surgery. After the surgery, he was allowed to return home to help in his rehabilitation. Be it a twist of fate, West Ham signed Ian Dowie, which quickly ended Buggers' swift Premier League career. Number 2. Sean Dundee, Liverpool. A rising star striker in the German Bundesliga, the South African striker joined Liverpool for £2 million in 1998. Dundee was seen as a suitable player to provide the much-needed cover for the injured Robbie Fowler. His star form from the Bundesliga never replicated itself in the Premier League. It became apparent that Liverpool had signed a faulty bomb, adding to the list of failed strikers who failed to make the cut at Anfield. Dundee seemed slow, almost as if he was caught in the B-roll of a movie. Perhaps the pace and intensity of the Premier League was probably too action-packed for him. He made only 5 first-team appearances and never scored. You know a player is that bad when the manager talks about them with regret. Roy Evans said, "One player I do regret signing was Sean Dundee. He was terrible on and off the pitch. He certainly shouldn't have joined Liverpool." We agree with you there, Evans. We most certainly do. Number 3. Milton Nunez, Sunderland. Milton Nunez is a rare case in the league, a player with an air of mystery that still swirls around his arrival. Premier League side Sunderland signed him on deadline day in 2000 for a fee of £1.6 million. Maybe too harsh to be on this list as one of the worst players of all time in the EPL, but he did just make 1 appearance for Sunderland. The rumor mill around Nunez is that Sunderland actually signed the wrong player. Milton wasn't who Peter Reid had in mind, but rather his strike partner at PAOK, Adolfo Valencia. The Colombia striker was similar in height and build to his Honduras partner Milton Nunez. The story though doesn't sit quite right. Nunez has contradicted himself on different occasions, saying in one interview in 2016 that he was the player Sunderland intended to sign, but in a 2017 interview confirmed the rumors of him being a mistake signing. Whatever the truth may be, Milton Nunez may have been shelved for the simple fact that he wasn't cut out for the Premier League, and Sunderland were simply fumbling for words as to why they signed him at all. Number 4. Josie Altidore, Hull City and Sunderland. Very few Americans land themselves in the Premier League, and even fewer have what it takes to compete in the league. Josie Altidore, unfortunately, is not one of them. His numbers are what you would say abysmal. The American striker played for 2 English clubs, Hull City and Sunderland, where he made 70 appearances and scored just 2 goals. The appeal for Altidore was understandable. He was young, and his record with the New York Red Bulls was good, though not anything glittering, but it meant that he could grow into the role. He was also strong, big, and quick, with the ability to hold the ball. His finishing, however, left something to be desired. After being unsuccessful in the EPL, he moved back to the league which held his glory days and is performing better. He's so far scored 60 goals in 133 games. Number 5. Junior Lewis, Leicester City. When you're voted by fans as the worst player ever, you know you're incredibly bad, and your name must be mentioned on this list. Junior Lewis was a midfielder who had spells at Fulham and Leicester City, where his contribution came in the form of a single goal at Leicester. Despite his height, Lewis had no aerial ability or threat whatsoever. It's surprising he survived 3 years at Leicester, making 30 appearances and not offering much. He's not a fans player, but it does seem his biggest fan is Peter Taylor, who he owes a big portion of his career being signed for 6 clubs under Taylor's management. It does take commitment to keep signing the same terrible player, especially when said player was named worst player twice in 2 separate teams. Number 6. Bebe, Manchester United. Sir Alex Ferguson is one of the greatest managers in Premier League history, but even the great one has made some questionable decisions before. One such decision was the signing of Portuguese footballer Thiago Manuel Diaz Correa, also known as Bebe. Bebe joined Manchester United for £7.4 million in 2010, and his arrival was not one of warmth, but confusion. The rumor was Ferguson never actually saw him play before signing, which was weird from the strategic coach. The confusion cleared a bit when it came to light that agent Jorge Mendes had signed him on as a client. Bebe had only made 7 appearances for Manchester United in his first season and delivered displays that lacked any effort and skill. For Bebe, it seemed like he was just beginning the fundamentals of football. He was quickly loaned out, and when the opportunity arose, he was quickly sold to Benfica. Number 7. Massimo Taibi. Another blunder from Sir Alex Ferguson was the signing of goalkeeper Massimo Taibi over Francesco Toldo. The recommendation came from his brother Martin. Massimo did not speak English, and a local Italian restaurant owner was hired to translate instructions from the side of the pitch. The thing is, Massimo started off on a good note, playing very well for United, and even collecting a man-of-the-match performance in a game against rivals Chelsea where United won 3-2. Things went downhill for Massimo in a game against Southampton when Matt Laetitia scored a brilliant goal through the legs of Massimo, earning him the nickname the Blind Venetian. His United career effectively ended after that blunder. Number 8. Savio Insurreco, West Ham. Savio Insurreco started off his career on a good foot, right? Well, why else would West Ham United buy a player who had only scored 3 goals in 22 appearances? Well, when Craig Bellamy was sold to Manchester City for £14 million in January 2009, West Ham needed a replacement, and that player was signed in the form of Savio Insurreco for a reported £9 million. Though Savio had been named as the player of the tournament at the Under-19 Euros, that didn't say much about his performance in the Premier League. Savio struggled to adjust to the league. The pace and intensity of the Premier League just seemed too much for Savio, and after just 10 league games, West Ham United sold him to Fiorentina. I mean, Savio was so bad, and his transfer deal was such a loss, an internal investigation into the matter was conducted. Number 9. Winston Bogarde, Chelsea. Winston Bogarde wasn't a bad player. The Dutchman had displayed good performances in his career before landing at Chelsea. His story, though, is a strange one. Bogarde signed for Chelsea in the summer of 2000 under manager Gianluca Vialli, who apparently had no idea the deal was happening. The deal was made by Colin Hutchinson, who was the director of football at the club. Weeks after arriving at Stamford Bridge, the newly appointed manager Claudio Ranieri absolutely had no interest in playing him. Winston, however, decided to stay in hopes of playing sometime down the line. He only made 9 appearances for Chelsea under a manager who wanted him to leave. According to Winston, seeing out his lucrative £40,000 a week contract instead of trying to find another team elsewhere where he would be afforded the opportunity to play was not in the cards. Winston stated, "Why should I throw €15 million away when it's already mine? At the moment I signed, it was in fact my money, my contract." Winston was later demoted to the reserve and youth teams in hopes of forcing him to leave, but he persevered and continued to enjoy his salary. He became one of the worst and expensive buys in Premier League history. Number 10. Ali Dia, Southampton. There is no doubt that Ali Dia is the worst player in Premier League history. There's no list of worst that Ali Dia does not come out on top. Dia's story is almost too funny and silly to believe. No matter how many times the story's told, it's just ridiculous. How he ever managed to secure playing time in a Premier League team is beyond puzzling. Dia had been calling clubs claiming to be the cousin of the legendary football player George Weah. George Weah was great, and if football runs in the genes of the family, perhaps it would be good to give his cousin a try. Or, I don't know. But that's what I think the discussion was surrounding Dia when he was being considered a prospect for the club. He was turned down by a number of clubs, including Bournemouth and Coventry, especially after witnessing him play, but some way, somehow, he caught the eye of Southampton, who took him in. He came on for Matt Laetitia, who was injured, and Southampton coach Graham Souness put Dia to the test against Leeds. Horrendous mistake. The Senegalese forward did one thing and one thing only: run. He ran from the ball as if he was scared and managed to run some more, completely aimless for 52 minutes before he himself was substituted. 14 days into his contract, he was released without a second thought. There you have it, the top 10 worst players in EPL history. Let us know in the comments section which player was your absolute worst and any other terrible player we may have missed that deserves to be honored on our list. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get awesome videos like these in the future.